So, I don't really know about you guys, but I have been really missing being able to play Delta Force on a whim. When I finally got my hands on it in the closed testing period, I was pretty much blown away by the level of quality that was on display and just how much of a serious competitor it was going to be on the FPS market, despite it being a closed alpha test. And when it then shut down for that little period there, yeah, it was a pretty big gap in my FPS gaming options that I was finding very hard to fill. Which may mean it comes as a surprise to you all that I say that I'm a little bit disappointed with Delta Force at the moment, now that we finally get to play it all over again. For those who don't know, Delta Force is now available for everyone to play as part of the Steam NextFest celebration. There's no need to wait on keys or any special access of any kind. You can simply jump on Steam right now, look for the Delta Force demo, and you're ready to jump in and just start playing the game. And look, it's not like the game has changed in any material way since I last played it back in August and September. The gunplay still feels pretty good, the game's aesthetic is grounded, and the core mechanics that make up this FPS game are all stepping stones that point it towards it being a very promising game in the end. But by the same token, that's also the very problem with this build of the game that we're playing now. It hasn't materially changed since the closed test build that we played originally. This Delta Force test launched while I was in Melbourne attending PAX Australia, of which you guys will see a vlog for very shortly, so keep your eyes peeled for that one. And on that trip, I did unfortunately start to hear murmurings of how people thought that this playtest was extremely similar to the last version that we played. But in saying that, I didn't really expect it to be literally the same. If you were to put $100 in front of me right now and ask me to identify one major change between the two versions of the game that we've played, I wouldn't be able to. I'd be missing out on what should be one of the easiest $100 bills of my life. But alas, it's extremely similar, if not exactly the same, and that extends to things like the content offering, the quality of life, and the bugs. Which, I guess for me, as someone who played the closed test extremely vigorously, like to the point where I had an addiction, yeah, I was a little disappointed to see that. You know, I was at least hoping to see a small improvement in the quality control or in the bug department of the game. Like, you know, seeing smaller bugs like the ammo count inaccuracies getting addressed, or having the ability to customize your loadout in the middle of the match getting implemented in this test build. But unfortunately, no dice across the board, and I'll be honest, I was also, you know, hoping, crossing my fingers something fierce, that we would see another new map get added to the game for the Havoc Warfare mode, given that we got no new maps for that mode through the process of the last closed test as well. I was also really hoping that the presence of the AI in this build of the game was going to be dialed back something fierce, especially noting how many more players are going to be jumping into this testing period rather than the closed test that we had a few weeks ago. But they are very much still here in the game and as rampant as ever, unfortunately tarnishing what would otherwise be a real home run of an FPS experience. Seriously, the AI element of this game continues to be one of its biggest Achilles heels to this date, and I'm really hoping the devs actually, you know, kind of address it and address it fast. But yeah, ultimately there was a lot of feedback circulating around this game in its closed testing period, none of which appears to have materialized, at least from our perspective as of what we're experiencing yet, which is disappointing in its own right. But to be fair as well, and this is going to be a moment of self-reflection for myself here too, I think the disappointment also very much comes from me mismanaging my own expectations. There was never really any news or press to suggest that this latest test was going to be on an updated client or an updated build of the game, so I'm willing to wear some of the blame on that one here as well. I guess I just hoped for a little too much here, and hoped that we would see more of what this game was shaping up to be, rather than its, you know, still admittedly relatively bare bones closed testing phase, if you will. So it's very much worth setting some expectations for yourselves as well, guys, especially if you're someone who played in the closed test or heavily kept an eye on the closed test from the sidelines, hoping that things would be addressed or improved right now, because unfortunately that is not the case, and coming into this test with any expectations other than that is going to leave you a little disappointed. If you're someone who also played in the closed test, all of your progress has also been wiped clean. While all weapons are unlocked in this closed test, not all of the attachments are, which means that you're going to have to grind through those pretty lengthy progression trees once again to get your weapons up to a decent enough rank. For me, starting from scratch with no new content to light the fire from underneath me, yeah, it's a little hard to have that same urge to play Delta Force again as hard as I did in the first test originally. And I think you guys are going to be hearing a lot of commentary from both the Delta Force community and YouTube content creators more generally, criticizing the direction the game has gone in that time and what little work has been done, at least from what we can see. Know that I do agree with that sentiment, and I do agree with the disappointment in that we're not experiencing anything new in this playtest while we still wait for new content to come out. But stepping back for a moment once again, I actually don't remember hearing any news, commentary, or press that talks to Delta Force getting an update for this particular test that we're playing now. So there is also a chance that the community's expectations more broadly have not exactly aligned with what we were, meant to be getting in the first place, which probably isn't helping. However, we do know that the devs aren't just sitting on their backsides here. The Chinese build of the game, which is being played right now in that part of the world, is apparently a heavily updated version of the game with new maps, vehicles, content, bug fixes, quality of life updates, and even the new destruction system that was hinted in that trailer we saw a little while ago. All of that is apparently being played at the moment and being tested over there. As far as we know, that version of the game is far closer to the early access version that we're meant to be playing a little closer to the end of this year, but that build is currently undergoing further optimization and localization work to make sure it's ready for the broader market. So it's not like no progress has been made whatsoever. Progress is being made, we're just not seeing the fruits of that labor quite yet, because it sounds like, based on my understanding, that build is not ready for us to enjoy. And given that Steam NextFest is very much the vehicle that is being used to push Delta Force out to the masses in this instance, ahead of its early access release, it's not like the developers were able just to do a cheeky little, delay. They were bound by Steam NextFest dates, which means that, yeah, if you've got a version of your game that does have more content but isn't ready for release and you push that out, you're likely to do more harm than good, even if there is, more content and things like quality of life fixes that the community really, really want. So I do understand what's happening here, and I understand how it may have some implications on Delta Force and our, let's say, impressions of it at the moment. But I am hoping that this next version of the game that we're meant to be playing when the game does go into early access, which again is supposed to be before the end of this year, so something to look forward to there as well, does implement a lot of the feedback and a lot of the changes that we've been requesting. My absolute Christmas wish at this point is that AI is completely removed from the game, or at least, a far less commonly occurring thing that you run into, because again, they just vary from being absolute cannon fodder to absolute terminators. And playing against them is just far from fun at all, so I'm hoping the developers have at least taken that on board and have implemented that sort of change, or that sort of rollback, if you will, into the next version of the game. But until then, guys, that will be the wrap up for today's video covering Delta Force. I'm likely not going to do any more Delta Force content until we hit early access, because the game is going offline again in a few days here, and there's really not much else to talk about right now with the game, given that, nothing has materially changed. So fingers crossed we do get to do some more Delta Force content really soon. If you guys enjoyed the video, backhand the like button, as it does go a long way to supporting the channel, and if you're new here, consider subscribing whilst you're at it, guys, to stay up to date with all new future videos that we do release. Also, come check out our Twitch channel, first link in the description down below. It would be great to have you guys a part of that community as well, and swing by the Discord while you're at it. It'd be great to have you guys there as well. But until then, folks, I hope you all have a good one. Peace out, and I will catch you guys all in the next one. Take care.